All right, excellent. So our recording has started. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Keisha Jackson with the One Commercial Partner team here at Microsoft and the corporate headquarters in Redmond. And I lead Microsoft Partner Community, the digital strategy engine that we use to do partner communication. We have an awesome partner here today representing KenSci. Sunny is going to be speaking with us about KenSci, the organization, and their partnership with Microsoft and their business strategy. Sunny, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Kesha, and hi everyone. Thank you so much for having us. Happy New Year to all of you who has joined this call or hearing me on a recording. To give you a little bit of introduction, I am Sunny Neogi. I am the Chief Growth Officer at KenSci. I head up sales and marketing and biz dev for our business globally. And what we thought we would do over the next 4 sessions or so is I have an amazing lineup of speakers. So, I will cover the strategy side of how we partner. And really the story I want to tell you about is how we went from being a startup with 0% in it to a company 3 years later that's managing 57 million lives globally, right? And I think that story is exciting. And to me, it's very inspirational that you can go from a white piece of paper to really good for a lot of patients worldwide with help and support from Microsoft. So I want to bring that story real for you today from a strategy perspective. After this, you will hear from Dr. Carly, who's our health director of analytics for healthcare, and she has been a practicing physician. She will talk to you about the strategy becomes real in the hand of physicians, right? And how we partner with Microsoft account teams and field teams and the partner community to make that vision come alive. After that, you will hear from our product manager, Jamie, who incidentally is ex-Microsoft, and he's going to talk to you about the joys of building a SaaS-based platform on top of Microsoft's IaaS and PaaS, and how it really helps us abstract a lot of complexity and help us focus on the business value and the healthcare alignment for what we do. And finally, you will hear from Dr. Anam, who's a data scientist, and she has a clinical informatics background, and she will talk to you about the potential of data and how partnering with Microsoft and building on Microsoft really helps us unlock data to do better for humanity at scale, right? So that's sort of what we have for you for the next 4 sessions or so. Today, we are going to talk for 15-20 minutes on the business vision and strategy to kind of bookend this conversation slightly better, right? So without much further ado, let me give you a quick sense of KenSci, and I promise I'll speak to who is KenSci for some context, not more than 5 minutes. So, as I said, we are a young company. We are less than 3 years in the making. Before this, we were a research collaboration between University of Washington, School of Medicine, and School of Computer Science, as well as Microsoft Research. 7 years into research, we published a lot of papers. We had few customers come in and knock on our door saying, we want to do this with you guys. And that's when we started the company less than 3 years back, right? And since then, we have raised 2 rounds of funding, and we are about 70 people now with ambition to grow far beyond that. But our core mission has remained the same through the research and through the formation of KenSci, is to fight death with data science, right? And it cannot be more simple, it cannot be more real, it cannot be more personal to each of us, right? Saying that the promise of data, if we can harness that for all of us and do what Netflix does for us, saying, if you watch this, you're most likely going to like this, and convert that into a healthcare context and say, if you are today suffering from diabetes, you are most likely going to have a CKD failure or a kidney failure, chronic kidney disease, 2 years out, because you are on this path, because this is your diet, because these are your socioeconomic indicators, and that is life-changing, right? And that is what we are doing with KenSci. It's essentially looking at, patients like us, looking at patients' historic record and predicting what will happen to them tomorrow. As it applies to the business of healthcare, that basically applies to few things in sense of variation, saying, will patient A and patient B have the same outcome, or Dr. A and Dr. B have the same kind of outcomes or quality scores, how well are hospitals being run, which patients are going to come often, which beds are going to stay locked, and that sort of thing, right? The core and the cool thing about the business is that it's built on top of the cloud, but we identify ourselves as a healthcare company, right? Because the product is being built by doctors and it is being used by doctors. So, the technology powers it, but it is fundamentally a healthcare AI platform, right? And we have a very strong validation in research. We have done research for 7 years. We continue to publish and be very open about what we find, what we are learning. AI in healthcare and AI in general is very, very early. It's literally the first innings of the game, right? And it's our core belief that the more we are open about our failures and success, the better we will get over time, right? And thankfully, because of some of those core beliefs and strategies, we have been able to scale really well. Today, we work with a lot of customers in US, big names like US Army and CDC, but even beyond United States, we work with NHS in UK. We work with Health Promotions Board in Singapore, with folks in Hong Kong, China, Australia, India. Suffice to say, it's a very global business, right? The other thing that we are very proud of is the fact that we are considered to be one of the top partners in the Microsoft ecosystem. We'll dive into that. And we continue to stay very close to the research community, and that's where our partnership with Microsoft Research as well as with KDD, IEEE comes into play, right? So hopefully that gives you a good sense of the business. What I'm going to do is quickly give you a sense of what it means for us, our customers, and their patients, right? So I briefly give you some examples. The first set of problems we solve are in the population health side, which is on the chronic disease management spectrum. So, most people die of chronic diseases. Chronic diseases, keep you ill for a long time, 5, 10, 20, in cases of diabetes, 30 years, right? With NHS in Scotland, we are helping the entire, nation of Scotland manage their patients with COPD, which is chronic pulmonary failure disease, better, right? And what we are doing is we're predicting who amongst those people in Scotland are likely to have a COPD issue, how to take better care of them, how long should they be in the hospital. When we send them home from a hospital, should we send them home with a nurse? When they're breathing through an oxygen mask, should we call them and say, Mr. Jim, you have to adjust your mask better? And we are doing remote monitoring of those masks, and some really, really cool applications of using AI to predict who's going to fall sick, predict how to take better care of them, and monitoring in real time how we can do better for them, right? Very similar story with Kaiser in US, where we are working with the chronic heart failure patients. In Singapore, we are working with every citizen in Singapore to essentially help flag who are pre-diabetic, that is, people who are not diabetic yet. And then the government of Singapore is, giving them nudges or recommendations saying, Mr. X, you should opt in for the salad meal or a salad kit or a healthy meal kit, or you should get so many steps in today, or or in cases like mine saying, Sunny, do not go to that pub on this Friday evening, instead go do some yoga, right? So they're pushing those coupons out to encourage healthy behavior, not for everybody in Singapore, but for specifically people who are pre-diabetic, right? And AI and cloud really helps us scale that kind of magic at a country level, right? This problem has been solved in media with ads and with Netflix. What we are doing is we are bringing that to healthcare, right? So so that kind of gives you a sense of the scale. The other thing we solve is essentially solving for making healthcare cheaper, right? So how do you work? By looking at data sets of medicine and say, this medicine, you can switch it out for generics because it has the same kind of outcomes, right? Or this set of hospitals are seeing increase in patients coming in on every Saturday morning, and maybe you should get more nurses in on Saturday morning. And how do you predict that, get ahead of that decision process, right? So so that's broadly what we do. And we self-identify ourselves as a system of insight, and we kind of leverage Satya's framing here, where he talks about systems of records, which are your data assets that you have collected over time. Systems of engagement being your customer-facing channels through which you engage with your customers, in our business as patients, right? And what we're really doing is putting machine learning in the center of it as a system of insight. And what we have done is built an AI platform for healthcare on top of Azure that brings in the systems of records, does the AI, and gives out the predictions as an API that connects into a system of engagement, right? That API could be something like saying, Uber for Health, my granddad, Jim, is not able to come to the hospital. Please send a car to bring him in to see a doctor. Otherwise, he's going to stay at home, not miss his medications, and then before you know it, he's going to be in the hospital for 5 days, cost everybody $20,000, right? Instead, send him an Uber, and it's going to cost us $200 to ferry him back and forth, but that's a far better outcome, both financially as well as health-wise, right? So that is what we do. And in that framing, what you will realize is that we leverage cloud to the hilt, right? Because unless the compute and the data sits next to each other, it is impossible for us to look through 57 million patients across 7 countries and make those recommendations real time, connect with companies like Uber, connect with meal delivery services, connect with nursing and home care facilities, and just keep all these balls up in the air, right? So that's what KenSci does. And in that process, I cannot tell you how important has it been for us to build on Microsoft cloud stack ground up, right? Granted, we are a young company, so we had the advantage of thinking about it from ground up. We did not have technical debt or legacy. But that said, we really looked at many cloud platforms and chose Microsoft because of the maturity across IaaS and PaaS. And it became very easy for us to build a vertical SaaS layer on top of it, right? And I'll walk you through a little bit about what that means, right? But before I do that, here is what I share with my customers, right? There's a lot going on AI. It's a very exciting field. But when it comes to healthcare AI, right, talking about it is one thing, and doing about it is completely different ballgame, right? And the image I have here is that of DiCaprio during Titanic and DiCaprio during his last few movies, right? And you see the transformation from doing a keynote and talking that AI is amazing, is going to save the world, and actually putting that in practice, because so many things go wrong when you put that in a physician's hand, right? Sometimes data is not correct. Sometimes the data is not on cloud. Sometimes there is low trust in those predictions because it is a life and death decision, right? The physicians are used to practice, right? And there is very little evidence in AI yet, right? We are building towards that. Everybody is, but AI is a new field. The field of medicine is thousands of years old. The field of AI is very young, right? So how do you take something that is that young and yet to be proven at scale and embed that into a real world evidence driven field like medicine, right? So those are the kind of challenges that you face in healthcare and AI, right? And one of the lessons we learned from one of our customers, which is Dr. Shafiq Rab, a CIO at Rush, and his core point is that the journey you need to take when you use AI in a healthcare context is to go from BI to AI to ROI, right? And no other way, right? Because BI essentially points you to problems that you have a lot of data for already. It means that people are looking at the data and making decisions, right? Layer up technology on top of things that people are doing well and make it amazing. If you can do that with AI, machine learning, or whatever other tool sets you have far better chance of delivering successful outcomes for the patients from a healthcare perspective, as well as from a healthcare business from a financial perspective, right? And that framing has been very valuable for us because, when we go work with customers, we basically say, what data do you have? And if we can unlock the power of the data by moving that to the cloud, we can really do some amazing work, because what you have with BI is essentially looking at this problem from a rear view mirror, right? But if you can apply the advantage of predictive analytics on top, you are suddenly looking at the road in front of you and then driving the car based on that, right? So, so that's what AI does, but it is very tied to the BI and the data asset that already exists, right? And the reason I bring that up is because, and this is a slightly technical slide to talk to you about how we built on the Microsoft stack, right? It's basically saying the data exists in SQL, right? There are new kind of data that is coming through IoT, right? And Microsoft has this amazing, stack for the intelligent cloud that brings together streaming data, legacy data from EMRs like Epic, Cerner, and who have you, and makes it really easy to move to a enterprise data lake, right? And in doing so, Microsoft also gives you access to partners like Azure Databricks that lets you really transform and bring that data onto Azure Data Lake and make it ready for AI. If we were to build just this front part of that engine, right, from the ingestion to the transformation without the support of Azure services as well as Azure Databricks, we would have not been here. We would have been 7 years from where we are today, right? Not to mention the rest of it, right, where you are really leveraging a lot of compute, a lot of infrastructure, and a lot of data science capabilities that Microsoft has been innovating on, and giving us as an ISV the opportunity to really build on top of that, right? So the bottom half of the slide has some sense of what technologies we use from the Azure side, but fundamentally the point I hear from our CTO and our leadership team from an engineering side is largely that we don't have to think about infrastructure anymore, right? Because the pace of innovation at Microsoft and the maturity of the platform is at a place where we can abstract that complexity out and focus entirely on saving patients' life, right? And focus entirely on figuring out how to make that data readable for AI, how to basically figure out what a doctor needs to see, not what a sysadmin needs to do, right? And that is such a unique change in the way you build software, right? 5-10 years ago, you would basically spend 70% of your time and effort thinking through the infrastructure piece and maybe 30% on the application side. This now helps us dedicate 95% of our time and effort on the domain and only 5% on figuring out how to integrate things together on the infrastructure side, right? And on the front end, we use, Power BI, Teams, Flow, and a lot of productivity tools that, enterprise users are already used to, right? And that really helps us get traction and usage within our customers saying, you are used to this. You're used to Teams, you're used to Power BI. It's not that you have to learn a new kind of thing to do AI on top of it. We will surface AI within those existing tool sets. So it really helps us break through the, the enterprise adoption curve really, really quickly, right? So from a technology side, I cannot underscore how strong it has been a partnership for us to just use whatever Microsoft is putting out and, connect the dots to paint the picture that we want to paint, right? So with that said, I want to go to the GTM side, right? The technology side is how we built it. The GTM side is how we sell it, right? And the bookend to that commentary is that last year we were the 2018 Partner of the Year finalist. To give you some sense what that means for the other winners and finalists, we are an order of magnitude, 100 times smaller than the other guys, right? And the reason I put this up there is to give you a very simple commentary. It's that with the Microsoft's partner ecosystem is such an amazing and fantastic community of partners and Microsoft team members who really care for biggest of bigger companies as well as the smallest of small ISVs, that you get a level playing field. And not just that, the level of support, and I have been in big SI business and in the past, I have not seen any difference in the kind of support you get and the kind of enthusiasm you see across the Microsoft partner community based on your size or your history, right? If you have value and if you can unlock that value working with Microsoft, you are all on the pedestal if you earn your rights to it, right? And I want to spend a little bit time talking to you about how Microsoft really helped us earn this, right? So, and this is a dense slide. I will not talk to everything, but just in summary, in over the last 3 years, we have worked with Microsoft Research, we have worked with Microsoft Worldwide Health, we have worked with Microsoft US Health Field, who are in front of the customers. We have worked with the field team members who are account managers and the SSPs. We have worked with the fantastic the partner community and the partner team. We have worked with the Microsoft Growth team. And I am sometimes surprised that a company as big as Microsoft can really give so much to a company as small as KenSci, right? The number of, divisions in Microsoft are perhaps higher than the number of employees we have. But even then, Microsoft has been just so open and so collaborative about supporting us through the entire journey from saying, this may be a business to a point in saying you are the partner we go to if we have this set of problems coming into us from a customer, right? And that is incredible. That is amazing, right? And I know looking from outside, it sometimes Microsoft might look like it is way too big, but I can tell you this, that the simplest level of abstraction here is on the mission front, saying if the mission is aligned, it's very easy to work with Microsoft no matter which part of Microsoft you are working and collaborating with, right? And that's just been amazing for a young and small company like us to see the same consistency, the same support, and the same enthusiasm, no matter which big part of Microsoft in which geography we have gone and knocked on. And no matter where we have knocked on the door, there has always been a welcoming face behind the door saying, yes, I have heard of you guys. I know you guys are validated. You have built this the right way. Your customers see value from you. I am more than willing and happy to invest and partner with you, right? And that has just been one of the most rewarding elements of the journey that we have had with KenSci, right? So I want to stop there, and open up for questions and just go back to the mission that we are on, is to fight debt with data science, and we are really, really fortunate to have the full support of Microsoft during this journey, and not just support but enthusiastic sponsorship of our mission as it aligns with Microsoft's mission. Thank you so much for having us, Keshav.
Awesome. Thank you, Sunny. That was great. I didn't see any questions on the community site, but I will ask a question that came up just in our previous conversations and also in your presentation. Just thinking about the journey that KenSci has been on with Microsoft, what would you say as as a company, if you're from perspective of a company who's not yet a Microsoft partner, what's the single most important aspect or contribution or relationship that you need to have a very successful relationship with Microsoft and the partner ecosystem?
Great question, Kesha. I have pondered on this question a lot because, if you think about a company like us who are very young, very small, we have gone through 2 rounds of funding, but, we are a young company, right? For us, the biggest advantage from a business perspective that we looked at is a simple decision, right? That Microsoft has the largest and the most engaged sales force in the world when it comes to the enterprise segment, right? For a startup like us to leverage that sales team and to really go sell with them opens up the market for us, right? So that is sort of the benefit at the end of the rainbow. But as you walk through that, I think the few things that we had to get right was to make sure that it's a win-win-win for everybody, right? The fact that we are built on top of Azure makes certain that when we win a customer, there is Azure consumption that drives the field, right? But even more important than that is the value we create for the customer together, right? The fact that both Microsoft and KenSci believes that if we can bring Azure and KenSci together to bear for a health system, it fundamentally changes the business dynamics as well as the patient outcomes for those systems is perhaps the most important thing that we had to get right, right? And, thankfully the partner community in Microsoft and the partner teams really coached and guided us through that process, saying, how do you make this, real and relevant and right for the customer? Start there and everything else will fall in place, right? So I think, the access to the sales team and the go-to-market engines, as well as the ability to kind of bring the KenSci, Microsoft, and customer win, orchestration together has been critical to that success.
Excellent, thank you. I know we're almost at time here, so I just want to do a quick check. I know a couple of other folks from KenSci are on the line. Are there any questions that you all would have or that you wanted to add to Sunny's presentation? Okay. If not, then we can go ahead and conclude. I greatly appreciate your time, Sunny. It's a very exciting overview. I really love the deep dive and what you can do in 20 minutes talking about the relationship and partnership that KenSci has had with Microsoft. And I'm very excited to hear from Dr. Carly next week and then Jamie after Dr. Carly the week after that and continuing the series. And so a lot of great information to come. Thank you for those who were able to join in. And then we will have this on demand and will be shared out through the Microsoft channels later today. I'm going to stop.
Thank you for having us, Kesha. Looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to end the recording now. All right. Thanks, everybody.